Have you ever looked at someone that was blowing up on YouTube and thought to yourself, why them and not me? You're not lazy and you're not talentless. You're just stuck. You're stuck in your overthinking. But most of all, you're stuck in your perfectionism. You're stuck wondering where you should even begin. And I was too for quite a while. I kept bouncing from niche to niche, and I didn't even know where to begin in reality. And I just kept hitting walls and burning out. But when I finally learned to just simplify my message, clarify my strategy, and focus on the actual right kind of content, that's when everything changed. In this video, I am going to show you what I wish someone would have told me from day one starting out. Not just how to grow a following, but how to actually grow a real business around YouTube. Or if you already have an existing business, how you can get more eyes on your business. And I'll show you how to do it with freedom, direction, and purpose. Stick around and I'll even show you what I'm doing next to scale all of this without burning out completely. I used to think that the reason that I wasn't growing was because I picked the wrong niche. I know, I'm sure all of you have thought this before. It's very common when you go on and start getting advice for how to start a YouTube channel or even in social media, everybody tells you the most important thing is you have to pick a niche. In some respects, I agree with this, but sometimes we can't just figure out our niche overnight. And me personally, I'm a man of faith, so I always pray about everything that I do. And this would be a great idea for you too, to actually ask God what it is that He wants you to get into. So anyway, getting into my story, I pivoted from POD, which was print on demand. I was selling all types of Christian apparel, and I even had a niche that was in gardening one time. And this was partially because I took advice from people that were telling me that I had to pick a niche. But that's a whole nother story. Each time I started to grow, it was like I felt like I had to transition into something else. I would burn out, stall out, and switch lanes almost every time. And it was so frustrating. And every time I did, I thought maybe this will be the time that it will finally work. But here's the spoiler. It wasn't the niche. It was actually me. What I came to learn is that consistency does not work when you don't have clarity. You can't show up powerfully for 3 years if you don't even realize who you're talking to. Or in some cases, you may not even know what you stand for. So if you've been switching niches, switching lanes, or even switching formats, I want you to ask yourself, is this the content that I actually want to make? And is it the content that's actually the problem? Or is it the confusion that's behind making this type of content? The truth is that you can't go forever making content that you're not actually interested in. I mean, you could, but who would want to do it that way? It's a much better strategy to just find something that you actually enjoy. When I finally did end up going, I guess what I would consider viral for the first time, I couldn't believe it. I started to blow up. I was getting thousands of views on shorts, and one of my shorts actually ended up going over like 4 or 5 million views. I couldn't believe it. My phone was blowing up with messages of people liking, subscribing, leaving comments. It was almost too much to handle, to be honest. But I really didn't have that good of a system in place. I knew what I was doing up until that point, but when it came to actually growing and scaling, I was really insecure. I knew I was being consistent, but I just couldn't figure out what it was that was actually working. I needed to get to the source of it, so I stepped back and I asked, where is the majority of my time actually going? And how can I keep this consistency? When I started to focus all my energy on actually building a sustainable strategy and not just hustling, that's when I built a sustainable momentum. Are you maybe burning out because you're doing the wrong kind of work? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. Where are you actually putting your focus? You can post all day and go viral, but if you don't have a system behind that or a strategy, how are you going to replicate that? At one point, I had to take a couple of days to just sit back and rethink my strategy and realize what I had to do different. I tried to figure out why some posts were going viral and why others weren't. And as I really thought and prayed about it, the answer came to me and I came back into the game different. There was no more just posting into the void and doing things in a random kind of way. I rebuilt everything from scratch, and I did it in a streamlined kind of way. It was honestly the moment when I stopped just trying to be original, and I realized that there were creators out there that had systems and ways of doing things, and that's why they were seeing the success that they had been seeing. You see, you have to realize that a lot of these people that you see on YouTube, these big creators, or even on Instagram or other platforms, it's not because they just decided to jump on their camera one day and start filming content. It's because they do everything with a strategy. So what I did differently this time is I started using my data to guide my content. And that was when I started to see success. I simply just studied what was working for others and I repurposed it into my own style. And that's when it really started to click, when I just put my own twist on it and started doing things my way. That's when I started to consistently start hitting high views. It seemed like every post that I made was getting at least 10K views, but many of them went into 20K, 50K, and up. It was because I stopped guessing and I started reverse engineering. A lot of times we think that we have to be so creative. And in reality, yes, I believe that God gave us the ability to create, but sometimes we just need more clarity about what is actually working so that way we can implement our creativity into what is already working. I started to see so much success and so much attention from other creators even that I didn't know what to do at this point. I felt like I was growing in the content creation, but I didn't know how to actually sustain that and how I could scale what I was already doing. So then came the big question, where do I go from here? I had just received partial monetization from YouTube and I wanted to keep going down that path. The only problem is that for me, I had a personal conviction because I was running a ministry channel. For me, I just felt like I didn't want to mix my business with the ministry that I was running. That was when I decided to split the two. I kept the ministry separate. That was when I decided to split the two. So I decided to separate the ministry and then create a business on the side. And this is the beautiful part about content creation, is that when you know something has worked before and you already have the strategy and systems in place, you know how to replicate it. And I realized that if I actually did want to continue with my ministry and do that full time at some point, I would need a business of some sort to be able to do that. I wanted the freedom, but I knew that freedom would require structure. So I needed a way that I would be able to sustain that. So I gave myself a target and I came up with the number of money that we would need for my wife and I to quit our jobs, allowing me to be able to work on the business and also the ministry full time. I knew at this point that I was ready to build something bigger. And let me ask you, are you building your business in a way that would actually let you walk away from your job? Are you building something bigger than what you are already in? The truth is, I believe sometimes we just have to aim high. If we're gonna do something, we need to do it the right way. So now you might be asking, now that I have my system and my strategy, what comes next? Well, that just requires being consistent on a daily basis, showing up constantly, not worrying about what people are going to think, but knowing that if you're using strategies and systems that have already been working for other people, that you're going to see success. But the key here is that you have to make sure that these are actually successful strategies. And one thing we really have to get straight is don't do this if you're just looking for a money grab. Don't get into content creation if you're only looking to make a quick buck. Sometimes, yes, you can grow and scale very quickly, especially if you already have prior knowledge of business, but you don't want to get into something that you're not truly going to want to sustain over the years, because this could be a business that, like I said, will allow you to have the freedom to quit your job and to be able to do this full time. And I do hope that if you are trying to get into this, it's because you want to be able to serve people. Not so much chasing the money, but doing it because you actually enjoy doing it and you enjoy helping people and allowing people to experience the success that you have experienced. So now I work smarter and not harder. I use systems to leverage my work. I have a plan for everything I do and I craft my titles, thumbnails, and everything that I do around what is already working. What kind of creator business are you building? Is it one that's going to lead you to success? Or is it one that's going to restrain you and keep you from growing? So now that you've heard my journey, here's what I want you to take away from this. To realize that you don't have to always be the best. You just have to be the most strategic. You don't always have to go viral either. It's more about just being valuable, especially if you're building a long-term business. You don't always even need to have a huge audience. You just need to make sure that you have the right one. An audience that actually loves your content and is engaged with what you are putting out there. And this all starts within your first 30 days of creating. In my next video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how you can plan your first 30 days of content so that you can start growing without burning out. And if you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and actually start building something real, make sure to check out my Level Up Your Content challenge. We're not just making content, we're actually building movements. So if you're ready, let's build yours. And just remember, more than anything, do not let the fear hold you back. We need to be able to crush these limiting beliefs that come into our minds every day. And when we can get past that, that's when we can start creating from the heart.